Hello, Dragon Squad, and welcome to the pre-show. I'm John Idarola. It's good to be talking with you again. And today is certainly going to be a good day because not only do we have a ton of news to talk about, both in the pre-show and on the full show, but we're going to be joined by an awesome guest. Anna Kasparian herself is going to be joining us. Always a special day here at the Damage Report. Thank you for everyone who is already here, and especially those of you who had already hit the like button before I even got here. Let's make that a standard sort of thing. Natalie says, let's get the likes up so it'll give us news. Yeah, no news until we hit 10,000 likes. So, it's going to take a bit of work. No, I will give you the news. But thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody. Kyle the Mighty apparently watched my appearance on Old School yesterday where I referred to liking some IPs more than others. They thought that was a weird thing to say. He says you should say franchises. I guess. I mean, we're adults. Intellectual property. Easy. Intellectual property. They're intellectual properties. That's what they are. I don't know. I think it's totally fine. Anyway, okay. So we do definitely have some news to talk about. A couple of these are just tiny little things. So first of all, in Texas, in Beaumont, they had an issue with one of their prisons. Ooh, Age of Sigmar. New edition coming out? Okay, that's interesting. I might have to open up a little tab for that. Anyway, so they had a problem with one of their federal prison camps. And they had multiple prisoners, 4 different prisoners, that were actually able to break out. Now, I'm assuming that you think, as I did, that in America, we put so much money into our prisons, and there's so much surveillance and everything, except when it's Epstein's area, that it would be very difficult to break out. I mean, like they make movies. They made a TV show about prison break. In Texas especially. Texas, they do not mess around with their prisons. So it was a complex scheme. It was sort of an Ocean's 11 type thing that the inmates did. They put dummies in their beds. How is that? And that apparently worked. Now, this is not the highest security prison or whatever like this. This is a lower security prison, but they put dummies in their beds. It allowed them to escape for more than 12 hours to make it look like they were in their cells. I think one of them had a different prisoner pretend to be him. That person is probably in some trouble. There apparently were 3 different checks during the night into their rooms, but if you're just glancing in like it's Ferris Bueller, that's probably not going to catch them. One of them remains at large. The other 3 have actually been caught. So their surveillance outside of the prisons is a little bit better than that inside. But isn't that amazing that that's actually what it takes? Like, that's a joke. But that's actually all that it takes, apparently. Anyway, they did catch 3. And I'm assuming they're going to start to do a little bit more like poking or something like that. Anyway, Rob Shively says, F the haters. They hate what they love. They hate what you love. They're miserable and you're having fun. That means you win at life. Now it's up to God to judge your opinion. Thank you. Well, wait, why does he have to judge it? Shouldn't he love me too? But I appreciate that. Okay. Give me a brief idea. Did you get a notification for this? It feels like it's been doing a little bit better in sending those out. Tiger says, hey, John, emergency. The Virginia primaries are saying I got caught off guard. Any idea who the possible progressive candidates are or close to it? Off the top of my head, no. I couldn't do a good job of filling in for multiple races. I apologize. But I will bring it to the notice of the main show team, and maybe by main show they can talk about it. What I will say is sometimes candidates like Bernie Sanders will put out lists of candidates. Not a lot, but there are usually progressive organizations that do. Like, I don't know about for Virginia specifically, one that leaps to mind, but you can probably look for, there's got to be some organizing group there that's put together, especially if they have ballot initiatives too. Those things are usually distributed in advance of these. It's a little bit harder for, these mid-season elections. Okay, looks like a lot of people did get notifications. That's good. Not everybody. Thank you for that. Al Rapine, thank you for your super chat. Appreciate that. Okay, let's see. Forbesilla says, I'm not surprised. When I was in prison, they didn't go into the rooms. They just make sure there's a body in the bed. It's not that hard. Yeah, and look, I get it. It seems like it would take way longer to actually check the rooms, and you wouldn't necessarily want them to be waking people up to make sure that they're there. That seems like that would be super disruptive to a person's health and mental, wellness and everything. But yeah. Forrest Sudley says, John, my notifications have suddenly been set to off for no apparent reason. I corrected it, but thought you should know that YouTube is screwing you. Great. Well, thank you, Forrest. So if you didn't get a notification, check to make sure that you rang the bell and asked for all notifications. Maybe even if you have done it before, if you're not getting notifications, maybe they're changing it in some way. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to say they've shadow banned me, they're coming at me, like you're supposed to like me more because the man is trying to ban me or whatever. I don't think that that's probably what's happening, but it's happening. But they're bugs, so maybe worth checking. Okay, apparently there was an ad break while I was talking. That's cool. No alerts with the bell clicked and subscribed. I just hate it. It's not like, social media wasn't amazing 10 years ago, but at least it seemed like they got what the user behavior was intended to do and respected it, at least to some extent. Like, if I, followed you on Facebook, it's because I wanted to see your posts. If I followed you on Instagram, it's because I wanted to see your images. YouTube, similarly. I subscribe to you. I presumably want to see your shit. But they decided years ago, no. You either don't actually mean that, or you don't know what's best for you, or we can monetize this by producing our own feed that's not chronological. We'll decide what you see and what you don't. You clicking on it, even doing these extra layers, bells and subscriptions and all that, isn't enough. And partially, it's their own fault. Like, they spent years encouraging people to subscribe to content that they weren't really that interested in. And I guess, we YouTubers did that as well. And so at some point, it just became too difficult. You're subscribing to too many things happening in your feed. I never understand the people who follow like 10,000 people on Twitter. I don't know what their feed, I don't know what the point of that feed is. But yeah, I don't know. We need something better than them just deciding what we get to see. Okay. Juneteenth, obviously, a very important day to commemorate. One way that it's being commemorated this year is Naomi Wolf is headlining this anti-vax event. Now, you might think, okay, maybe you're not familiar with Naomi Wolf from Twitter. Oh, you sweet summer child. She's lost her mind. Anyway, you might think, well, that's a really unfortunate coincidence that it would be on that day, but it's not a coincidence. They're basically saying, no, we're doing it on Juneteenth because our freedoms too are being taken away by the vaccine. Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, don't do the event at all. That would be one thing. You all don't talk about Juneteenth because you're going to say more bad stuff. And then the combination of those two things, oh my God, why would you do that? One of the organizers says the 19th is a day of emancipation, and it's a day when we claim our freedom. It's when we see that we are not slaves to mandate. It's when we take our power back. We've been enslaved by our government. No. Oh, God. And look, some of these people might be Republicans or conservative, but I don't think most of them are. These people are just in a non-conservative, fresh way out of their goddamn minds. The pandemic was really rough on a lot of people. And I think mainly like the way that we were focused on it, that we might see it, is a person gets really anxious or a person gets really depressed. But what if this is actually one of the products of it? People have lost their minds and, clung to these conspiracy theories. Jesus. Okay, now, bit of good news. Well, better than the alternative. In the Senate, they're going to be starting the process of confirming judges. Why did they wait 3 months? God only knows. Since at any time, if, Kirsten Sinema goes to like thumbs down something for the working class and accidentally trips and, puts herself in the hospital or something, they could lose their ability to do it at all. I don't understand why they wait this long, but it is starting to happen. It is going to be a very slow process to, as they're saying, restore balance to the federal judiciary. I don't think it had balance before Trump, but so Chuck Schumer is saying they're going to swiftly and consistently process his judicial picks, bringing balance, experience, and diversity back to the judiciary, certainly in comparison to what the Republicans were doing. I want to remind you of this, and this is the number that we went over many times over the past few years, ever increasing this number. Donald Trump got 234 judges on the federal bench in one term. 234. It is an impossible to track, unlikely to be able to be quantified effect on people's lives. Just that is 234 additional landmines for any positive thing that the government does to potentially get blown up on. And not landmines just for the next couple of years. Like there are politicians that we don't even know about right now that you've never heard of that are out there doing organizing or activism or something like that, that'll run for Congress for the first time in 8 years. Maybe they'll lose. 2 years later, they'll run again. They'll finally win. They'll work their way up. 2 presidential cycles later, they will run for president. Oh my God, a progressive actually won! And then they'll pass legislation, and then one of these a-hole radical right judges is going to stop it. Like that's, it's part of the fight, and we'll continue to fight, but it is difficult to exaggerate how long this damage will continue to be done from his ability to get that many judges, including on the Supreme Court. So it's going to take some work to go back to that. Now, there is, 71 vacancies in district courts right now, 9 openings in appeals courts. There will be more retirements. But even if they got all of those, that is just a tiny bit of it. Like, Biden needs to maintain control of the Senate. Like, if he only has 2 years, like, you think that Mitch McConnell and them are going to confirm literally anyone for 2 years? No, it'll be the people get to have a say in the next election that we will say was fraudulent or whatever. And that's not even counting the Supreme Court. It is going to be a mess on the Supreme Court. Okay, now really fast. I want to give you this. This is sort of just a reaction. So we talked a lot about Joe Manchin yesterday. I'm sure it'll come up again very soon. I've seen, especially since his op-ed on Sunday, there have been some great responses to the bullshit arguments that Joe Manchin has been spreading by people like Jamal Bowman and obviously AOC. AOC says that he's supporting Republican voter suppression. And let's see, we had Common Cause pointing out to Senator Joe Manchin that 79% of West Virginia voters support the For the People Act, which is true. And seeing the response just kind of depresses me. Like seeing all the good progressives in Congress tweeting him. That's good. I'm glad. And pointing out the polls is good. Something having 79% support, you would think that would have an effect. That should be enough to convince a Republican, let alone a Democrat. But no, so when AOC says that he supports voter suppression, yes, he does. And pointing that out doesn't really accomplish anything, unfortunately. It's not to say that she shouldn't or that we shouldn't. We do too. She's right to. It just doesn't seem to matter. Doesn't seem to matter literally at all. And that's depressing. The polls coming back oh my God, it's fucking overwhelmingly popular. Democrats love it. Independents love it. Wait, Republicans love it? Oh, and that doesn't matter? It doesn't matter at all? He says he's blocking it because of bipartisanship. The actual people in a bipartisan fashion support it. It's just sometimes all of our tools don't work. All of our weapons have no bite. They can't do any damage to him because he's in this position and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. We've set up this system where he's in for years and years. Not inconceivable, but it is close to inconceivable that he could lose in a primary. Even if he spends between now and the next election just opposing everything that his constituents want, he's going to have an overwhelming amount of money. The Democratic establishment's probably still going to support him, almost certainly. I don't know. There are some topics that I I just hate it. I just hate it. Anyway. Sorry, I've fallen behind a lot on the comments. Apologies for that. I'm going to definitely need more caffeine. Tiger says, I was told you only get 3 tube notifications a day. I don't know how factual that is. Also, how nice of the new intern to pop in on you and watch you work. Oh, I didn't see that. Wait. Is that a ghost joke? That might be a ghost joke. Sundragon says, good day, John. Not sure if you've covered this or not, but could you look into the death of Lindana Mayeni by Honolulu police? I can. I am not familiar with that, but I will. Thank you. Okay, Steve Snyder says, any more low-res crotch shots sending you spiraling, questioning reality, my delicate little flower? Are we going to have to hear about Star Wars? We'll probably have to hear about Star Wars. Now, that's the thing. There were people in the chat that when we did the fact check about the Trump crotch thing, were like, no, it was real. I'm like, no, it's not. It's really not real. I don't know why it would be so important that it be real. Andrea says, Andy from Ohio, she, they. Yesterday was my 30th birthday and I slept a lot, missing TDR in total. May I please have a B-Day shout out? Andrea, you may. Happy birthday. Hopefully you're able to see this one. Wayne says, trying so hard to get to 1K, and today I see a thumbs down. WTF? Who the hell did it? Identify yourself. And please hit the like button if you haven't already. Give Wayne what he wants. Ryan says, do you think, similar to the Justice Dems gaining momentum versus the establishment, that QAnon Republicans will continue to gain momentum in 2022 and on? Of course! Yes, I definitely think. Look, I partly jokingly say from time to time, there will come a time when Marjorie Greene will be the reasonable one in the room. Scary times, but I don't think they're that far off. They've opened the door. You can get elected believing any crazy thing you want. And you might have a better chance if you believe the craziest shit. So yes, I think there will be many more of them and worse. Non-Human Humanist says, are we all going to die of preventable diseases because of anti-vaxxers? Is that how the world ends? I'm COVID positive, so can't get the vax for 6 months. Want vax. I don't know. We'll have to see if the opposition to that vaccine translates over to other ones. Jason X says, saw a clip of you on lefty YouTuber Demon Mama giving a base take that supported a base topic. She does debate and topics you should check out. Thank you. I will look into that. Not familiar, but I will look into it. Let's see. Wow, I fell very far behind. Apologies for that. We have one more story, our headline story. We are doing, again, our 90-minute show. That is apparently, at least for the time being, our new normal, as we give a lead into Indisputable, which comes up at 11:30. So the production process is a little bit more intense. I have to prep myself and vaccinate myself more. Caffeinate myself more. Already vaccinated, thankfully. Kyle says, too late to give Manchin a cabinet position and put a real Democrat in the Senate. I don't think he would take it. It sounds like it would be more work. That's a good idea. I don't know. Plus, I would have to look at their constitution, but I assume, like with most states, their Republican governor would appoint a Republican. So, anyway. Okay, so let's get into this last story, and that is that. I cannot believe that it took so long for the actual text of one of these Rudy Giuliani Ukraine phone calls to come out, that I'm going to just put it out there. Do we care at this point? Like, it is definitely corruption. It is word for word, indisputable corruption, a quid pro quo designed to influence the outcome of an election. It resulted in Trump being impeached what feels like 1,000 years ago. And it will almost certainly have no effect on Rudy Giuliani at this point. So it's the weirdest thing when there's like something that is objectively horrible and you don't know if you should care so much. So I'm going to give you that text in just a minute. Hey, Franklin. Franklin says, I know it's verbose, but Manchin needs to microdose. But too much, if I may allude, look what happened to Mr. Rudy. Nice. Thank you. Chase Lindley with a big super chat. Chase Lindley says, news, amazing. How can I communicate with you and producers on how to send it? I'm an active duty sailor. I'm with you on 99% of policy issues and I want to help. Also, Joe Manchin is a liar and an idiot. Well, that proves that Chase is a good person. I would say DMing me on Twitter is a good way. That's definitely a way to get in touch. Thank you. Okay, so let's jump into this perfect phone call, a perfect quid pro quo. So back in July 2019, which, man, I still remember that. Like, it feels like time has flown by. Giuliani had a 40-minute phone call with a senior advisor, with both a U.S. diplomat and a senior advisor to the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, at that time. He says things like, all we need from the president is to say I'm going to put an honest prosecutor in charge. He's going to investigate and dig up the evidence that presently exists. And is there any other evidence about involvement in the 2016 election? The Biden thing has to be run out. Somebody in Ukraine's got to take that seriously. That's the call where there's the no quid pro quo, no quid pro quo. Remember, Trump had his own phone call. We're not even talking about that, where there was explicit quid pro quos. This is an additional phone call. So Rudy Giuliani says that would clear the air really well. So these past issues between the U.S. and Ukraine, the air would be cleared if they investigate Biden. And I think it would make it possible for me to come and make it possible, I think, for me to talk to Trump to see what I can do about making sure that whatever misunderstandings are put aside. I kind of think that this could be a good thing for having a much better relationship. You bumbling idiot. That's the most... It's like, you know how, like, if you want to get a table at a restaurant, you're supposed to, like, slip a couple dollars, like, all slick. This is like, here, sir, take my 20, and please get me something near a window. It is so bumbling. I think then, with that, we could have good times, as countries do. Not now, but if. Anyway, there's a bunch of other bullshit. He talks about these conspiracy theories about George Soros. He doesn't even understand what he's talking about there. He makes up these bribes. Let's see. And then there's even more of a... Let's see. Okay. Okay. Damn. There was this thing where I'm having trouble finding it now. See, this is a good thing about having it printed out where I can actually highlight and all that. He says that when Zelensky eventually visits the U.S., you know, maybe we can set up some sort of meeting depending on the relationship there. So, and Zelensky, of course, wanted that. It's the most obvious quid pro quo ever. Question is, how much does it matter? Scale of 1 to 10, at this point, how much does it matter? With the minute or two remaining that we have. Let's see. Prison isn't for criminals, it's for poor people. Yeah, basically. Even I wouldn't hire Rudy. He's just so... Yeah, so far Wayne is the highest with a 5. Isn't that... It's like, I know that there's a million things. I say this more than almost anything else, but it's like sad that things have fallen by the wayside. It matters, yes, for the record, it certainly does matter. But you can get away with almost anything because there's so much else coming. Still rich and white, so too. Yeah. Hamad, of course you can join Dragon Squad. You're already part of Dragon Squad. Yeah, enough to disbar him. Hasn't he been disbarred? I wouldn't trust him to scoop ice cream. They're giving him, like, access to judges. Just for the judges' sake, I don't want that anymore. So anyway, that's out there. Maybe there will be a 24-hour news cycle about it. I'm not even sure that there will be, honestly, at this point. But maybe there will be 24 hours worth of news cycle about this. Trump would say something on his blog if he hadn't taken it down. And that's probably going to be it at this point. Anyway, we've got a lot coming up. Anna Kasparian is going to be joining me. We're going to be talking about, let's see, we've got water protectors. We've got Ellie Kemper. We've got Matt Gaetz getting laughed at. Anyway, it's coming up soon. You can watch it here. You can go to twitch.tv/TYT. See you soon.